If you've ever struggled with fear, doubt, or worry, and wondering what your true purpose was all about, then this podcast is for you. In this show, your host, Sylvia Worsham, will interview elite experts and ordinary people that have created extraordinary lives. So here's your host, Sylvia Worsham.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sylvia Worsham, your host of Release, Doubt, Reveal Purpose. And in this episode, I'm so excited because I get to interview a mentor of mine, Coach Wendy Stevens from Guerrilla Marketing. Coach Wendy and I met months ago via LinkedIn. She looked me up. We had a really amazing conversation. And in that conversation, I realized if I ever do a podcast, I definitely need to bring this woman in. She has got a pain to purpose story of transformation that really needs to be heard. So I'm really excited to welcome her. Welcome, Wendy.
Sylvia, I'm blown away you'd have me on the show. So thanks for the invitation.
So I'm happy we're both on. I'm happy that we're collaborating. And I'm happy that today of all days, we decided to do this interview because I think your story is phenomenal. And I do want you to kind of guide us through your story from the beginning, because I think most people don't realize that to get to our purpose in life, we sometimes take several detours along the way. So if you would be so kind as to give us a little bit of your background and how you got into marketing.
Sure. Well, it doesn't take a lot of life experience, Sylvia, to figure out that not all of your dreams come true. And I remember that first time, running up against a tree. I was actually graduated from high school, had a scholarship to play tennis at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. It so happened that there was a car accident. I was hit by a drunk driver. Mine was a really small accident compared to what happened to my brother, but it was in the same calendar year. Sylvia, my brother was in an accident that was devastating, knocked him to within an inch of his life. I watched him learn to swallow, walk, talk again after going through months and months in the hospital in shock trauma. In that same calendar year, my mother started Maryland MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. But can you imagine having your second child hit by a drunk driver in the same year? So It was a lot better, but I had a neck injury. It was back with I hate to make myself this old, but it was one of those station wagons. Still didn't have the full neck support. So I had a bad whiplash injury and I couldn't play tennis again. I ignored the doctors and kept playing, but then my x-rays got worse. So, I lost my dream. That was what I was going to do. I lost to the Maryland State Final to Pam Shriver back in 1980. And so I was right. I mean, I got really beat by Pam Shriver, but I still got to play her. At the end of the day, when things don't turn out the way you want, you have a couple of choices. And my parents had always taught me that it's not about avoid getting knocked down, because we're all going to get knocked down. It's how long you stay down on the mat. So, I was taught that. I was lucky. I was raised in a family culture where I was taught that resiliency, phoenix from the ashes. Don't let anything, dictate what your future is going to be. So I changed schools. I took a year off from college because my brother was in shock trauma. I then walked on at the University of Maryland to stay close to home. My brother was my hero. He taught me to dribble left, all those kind of fun, special things where he was my Camelot. And on the University of Maryland campus, the really cool, fun, social thing was lacrosse. And I watched the gals and the boys and girls playing lacrosse together on the field at Colt Fieldhouse. I was like, wow, I've got to try out. And so I walked on and I found my true athletic purpose because I walked on, having never played before in high school, became an All-American, set an NCAA record for assists at the University of Maryland. And then we won the NCAA championship in 1986. And I hadn't played in high school. Well, that's a Cinderella kind of story. And when I say found my purpose, actually part of the purpose was learning how to walk on and show up. And what's that recipe where we can reinvent ourselves? Little did I know the world was going to start changing so fast. And one of the most epically fastest changing areas is marketing. And with my ADD brain, is the only thing that holds my attention is how wicked things change. and how quickly I have to learn to stay relevant. And that's important for anyone to know.
I think that's amazing. To get to guerrilla marketing and you start off in collegiate sports, and that's your first act. How long were you in that first act for?
Well, I was lucky enough to make the US team 86, 87. That was an amazing experience. And with that opportunity, I got to travel. I got to start programs, I got to teach. And I had never done that before. I'd never been a coach. I never took a single PE class because I was always playing varsity sports. So, but both of my parents really were teachers. My dad was disguised as a doctor. My mom was disguised as a tutor, but she was really an amazing teacher. So that was the beginning of learning how to teach and coach. My coach at the University of Maryland was a legendary woman by the name of Suzanne Tyler. And Sue Tyler won back-to-back national championships. Never been done in Division I athletics except for then, where she won back-to-back in different sports in the same calendar year. So it was field hockey and lacrosse. Can you imagine making 2 appearances at the White House with 2 national championship teams? That was back in Ronald Reagan days, and I am really dating myself. But the point is, Sue Tyler, she was the first female athletic director in Division I when a debacle with a basketball player by the name of Len Bias, who sadly died of a cocaine overdose. Suzanne Tyler was brought in as the interim athletic director, and that was a very first for a women's athletic director in D1.
And you see that how sometimes divine timing plays a role. Someone is going through a rougher period, and then you're given the opportunity. And what does she do with that opportunity? She leveled up that opportunity. She's an athletic director, and now she's leading the collegiate sports, and now she's at the top of her game. Right. And very few women, really, in this day and age, a lot of women are these enormous light bringers, yet their circumstances sometimes don't give them the opportunities to step into their light fully. So I'm grateful that she was able to do that. And then you stepped into that role. Weren't you a coach too?
Well, yes. And I'll tell you how she inspired me on that side, because Suzanne Tyler got her PhD, got married, and won a national championship in the same year.
She's awesome.
So I actually started out my collegiate career at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which is a satellite campus from what is College Park. So I spent 2 years at UMBC, but people need to know why. I have Ivy League brothers and sisters. My dad established adolescent medicine at University of Maryland. I literally couldn't graduate. I was told my whole life how bright and smart, and I tested off the charts, but I swapped letters and numbers. And my mother literally walked into the provost at the University of Maryland and begged for what's called a provisional acceptance. Now, he would meet with her because my dad was this amazing faculty member at University of Maryland Medical School downtown. And I'm sharing this because people really need to understand, I almost didn't get in. I am very lucky and very privileged that they said yes, Sylvia, to 1 semester. I had 1 semester to prove that I belonged there, literally. And so it was hidden piece of shame for me. But what happened was, again, I walked on. I started playing at a D2 level, right? So it was easier to learn. Then I do a transfer study abroad year where I'm playing with World Cup players from, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia. They're all working for different businesses or banks in London. So I get hardcore schooled by the best of the world. And when I come back to College Park, I come back to my second time meeting Dr. Suzanne Tyler now. Before I went abroad, this is all going to make sense. You're going to love it. Ready? So when I first went to meet Sue Tyler, it was like, hey, I want to walk on. I'll carry buckets of water. I'll scrub toilets. I'll bring towels. I'll do anything. What do I need to do to be valuable to the team? And she looked up over her glasses and said, listen, kid. She didn't say kid, but that's how I felt. Listen, I have 14 high school All-Americans coming in August. I need to let you know you really aren't going to have a chance to earn a spot on the team. And I'm like, but couldn't I do this? So I kept looking for how could I contribute?
Yes.
Learning that one thing is the number one most important thing that served me really well. So basically, she became sarcastic when I kept pushing her with, could I do this? Could I do that? And she sarcastically said, well, you could learn to play left-handed. And so I kind of dropped my head a little bit, and I go to leave, and I reach out for the door, and I go. And that night I went home, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth left-handed, right? I mean, it was just so awkward. But the point is learning a new skill, right? When things are moving fast and you look at the world of AI today, it doesn't matter whether you're in marketing or data science, or AI is and will affect us faster and faster. In fact, when we're done reporting today, Sylvia, we both know the marketing world will not be the same again. So learning how to take a setback, bounce back off the mat, no matter what, no matter whether you see an opportunity or not, keep moving forward one step at a time. When you have a horrible setback, you lose someone you love, there's just so much devastation in the world. Sometimes all you can do, and it's one of my favorite Amy Grant songs, Sylvia, it's called Takes a Little Time. Sometimes all you can do is just stand, maybe get your breath back. So I don't want to do any Pollyanna, just bounce back and it'll be great. No, sometimes you have to stand, catch your breath, but you're probably going to have to learn something new. And that's okay, because today's expert is not next year's expert. We all have to, sharpen our every day. Yeah. Yep.
We have our ways to grow and to persevere. And I love what you said about focusing on what you can do, because I think that's an important message for people to hear. A lot of times when people tell you no, some people cower back. What I loved about your story is that you persevered, you kept pushing forward, and you asked, how can I be of value to you? And that, I think, is key in any circumstance that we face where we get no's and shut doors, and it can get very frustrating, and a lot of people quit.
Yep.
They're this close to greatness, but they quit. And that's the degree of difference between someone who's good and someone who becomes great. And I think that in itself, I loved how you framed that. Thank you so much for doing that for the audience. And I'm really curious to know and because you touched on this, dark chapters. Because you know that this podcast is also talking about releasing that doubt. And with doubt comes a lot of fear. So I know that there's a dark chapter in your life. Could you possibly start moving in that direction so we can see how you came out of that to emerge into the woman you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna dovetail one piece that's like a lily pad to that conversation, because the difference between making a horrible mistake and falling down into a dark valley for the rest of your life, the difference between that and having someone that believes in you, that you can do better, that you can be better, you can do everything possible to make something right, and then grow and stretch and become a better person because of it. So I'm going to just quickly off of Suzanne Tyler again. I'd never coached before, so I played US. I then met my children's dad. I have two amazing adult humans, the most fabulous thing in my life. But I found myself in Nashville, Tennessee. Title IX's going on. Pat Summitt is advocating for adding programs throughout the SEC. And I was lucky enough to be able to interview to be the head women's lacrosse coach for a brand new program. There were 10 other stellar Division I winning head coaches that applied for that position. How did little walk-on me with no degree? Now, only a private university, by the way, can hire someone without an undergraduate degree. University of Tennessee couldn't have hired me. So I called Sue Tyler. Hey, Sue, how do you think I should? And basically, it is a pitch. What should I say in this interview? I had the imposter syndrome. Do I really have what it takes? Blah, blah, blah. But the point is, I had a mentor. I called the mentor. She told me, because by the way, what I didn't know is the associate athletic director at Vanderbilt called Suzanne Tyler because they were on the NCAA basketball committee together. And June Stewart said, hey, Sue, we're looking for a coach. Do you have anyone you could recommend? And Sue Tyler said, yes. Her name is Wendy Stevens. She's right there in Nashville. You've got to interview her. I didn't know Sue had done that. But I called Sue, right? Suzanne, Dr. Tyler, to me, got a little coaching from my mentor, blah, blah, blah. And holy Toledo, I make the top 3. And then in that final interview, this is important for anyone. In that final interview, Paul Houlihan was the athletic director and asked me one question. Wendy, if I hire you, and this was, I'm pretty sure it was June. If I hire you, tell me what you're doing on July 1st when recruiting opens. I said, I will be in Suzanne Napolitano's house that first day. I will call my U.S. coach, who's her high school coach, up in New Jersey. I will bump up. I had my recruiting plan already laid out. Why? Because I called my mentor. And she said, Wendy, you don't have to be, I'm like, Sue, I don't know. I don't have the playbook. You don't have to be the greatest X's and O's coach. You just need to find 12 hungry, motivated, ambitious young women that want to help put a program on the map. If you share that vision with them, and what it was, look, recruit, get people that hustle, because, oh, by the way, Sylvia, 90% of games in lacrosse are won by the team that picks up the most ground balls. And that's where you can out hustle someone. So I had a team of girls, one recruiting class that beat teams that had 4 stacked All-American classes. And we won. We went 10-6 our opening year. So the point is this. The point is you got to have a mentor. The only way I could hack and become a D1 head coach without ever coaching before. Now, I had done little clinics with the U.S. team. So, hey, I take it. I mean, I had things that went in my favor. The point is I had a mentor. I hustled my fanny off, and that's how I made the team. I kept reaching out to that mentor. Then once I was hired, I flew up to Maine, where Sue is now, Dr. Tyler is now the athletic director. I flew up and I said, I need a game plan. And she went from everything, one last little hint, and then we'll stop this direction. I'll go to the dark chapter. When I'm up there, I'm like, she said, Wendy, what are you selling? When you go talk to these girls, what are you selling? I'm like, the SEC, Vanderbilt, a great education. She's like, no, you are selling you. I was like, what? She said, you put on your USA lacrosse shorts, you pick up, and I have it over here, by the way. I'll show it at the end. Pick up your USA lacrosse stick. You take that. That's the cover of your media guide. I'm like, no, that's too. She said, no, because those families have to trust their daughter with you. So I got another great lesson from Sue Tyler. So let me take that mentor and bounce forward to a very dark chapter for me. And my life could have gone any direction when this happened. And this is back. There was a terrible car accident in August 4th of 99. I still, Sylvia, today, I have scars on my left elbow and my right as a, sadly, drunk driver, 3rd time in my life now. Came across the median between Alabama, as you cross over from Florida into Alabama. We're coming back from Destin, Florida. My daughter is in the car in front of me with my best friend, Alice. Bo and Haley just switched spots. I'm watching this car 90 miles an hour across a huge median. I can't accurately describe, but anyway, it's near the exit for Auburn University, and there's a huge median. And I watched this car hit, it's plowing through grass. It is flying out of control. And I'm tailgating Alice. We're 2 moms, next door neighbors, best friends, and kids are watching Star Wars in the car. And I'm watching it happen. I'm like, Alice, hit the brakes, hit the brakes. They didn't. They hit head on. And my daughter is in that car. And I watch it flip end over end over end over end. And in that moment, the only thing anyone thinks about, by the way, is your child. It's the only thing you think about. So I barely avoided the head-on collision. I pull over. I'm running through the grass, and Mama Bear goes ape nuts crazy. I was not cut by glass, but the top of the truck was sheared off. The only corner that wasn't just crumpled metal was the corner where my daughter was. And so I'm unbuckling. There are people already helping. Haley collapses out of the vehicle. I am sure she's gone, because I won't be too descriptive, but you can imagine a war and there are already yellow blankets, right? So it was just like, it was a war scene. There were a number of fatalities that day. So I think Haley's gone. She's in my arm. She is not conscious. There's blood all over her because she has a severe gash. But at the moment it happens, you don't know everything. All I know is she's limp as a noodle. We're both covered in you know what. And I'm rocking, and I literally am saying, God, take me now. God, take me now. You don't think about what you're going to say. I had lost my mom. I'm losing my marriage. I know my best friend, like the wheel is under the second part of the car. So like it's shock. It's horrible. And I'm rocking. And then all of a sudden, Haley wakes up like she got stung by hornets, just screaming. But, I got my breath back. It's like, oh my gosh, what was 60 seconds ago is not now. And there were so many people that helped. I'm going to go a little bit faster to get to the point. I had some amazing people show up in my life, but I am hanging by a thread in a very devastating circumstance. I've lost my best friend now. Alice did pass away in that accident. And Haley is now my miracle, because she had 27 stitches right about her eyebrow. Today, you don't even see the scar. For years, we had glass that came up, but she had an orbital fracture, 27 stitches, otherwise a miracle. So, but what I didn't know, Sylvia, is I was beginning a deep depression, and I didn't know it was happening. Remember, I was taught that bounce back thing. And so there's a good side of bouncing back, and there's a not so healthy side of bouncing back. And so I'm walking around like everything's fine, but I'm actually losing it inside, because the people I was closest to have now immediately passed. I'm going through a very brutal divorce. It's high profile. It's a very high profile family in Nashville. And my kids' lives and futures are on the line. And I remember calling my dad. It was like, Wendy, I want you to come home more than you can imagine. But I have to tell you, as a pediatrician, the number one success factor in Bo and Haley's life is the presence of their dad. And Sylvia, honestly, it took the wind out of me, because I do not have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. It's not about who's good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just, I shattered, some family dreams. And I'm in a very, I don't need to say much more, but I was in a very dark position where I interviewed for my first job as going to be a single parent. And that door was closed by an influential family member. And so, wow, I'm trapped, but my children are everything to me. And their dad didn't do anything to deserve losing them in his life. So I'm sharing that because when your ability to even make a living, to take care of your kids, in Williamson County in Nashville, Tennessee, back in the year 1999, you could lose custody of your children if I lost my house. I was about 30 days from losing my house. I had no business background, no college degree. And I made a really stupid mistake, but it was actually crying out for help. My friend Alice, who had been killed in that accident, actually had an American Express card with my name on it, because there were really kind of some ugly things happening with my ex. She wanted to make sure that I could, be able to get groceries. Yeah. So at the end of the day, what happened was I started crying out for help, and it was actually at a prayer meeting, Sylvia, and people are praying about whether to go to Fiji or Bora Bora for spring break. And in my head, I'm going, stop the world. I want to get off. And I took a friend's credit card, Sylvia, and I bought presents for teachers at Target. Like it didn't make sense. And so then I got a call because I'm in divorce care in Nashville at a church. I get a call, and all Joan and Rusty Benton wanted was for me to get help. And so I have nothing to hide. Yes, I did it. And that's not what you should do, but that's what I did because I was having a breakdown, but I didn't know it. So if we fast forward through all of it, that was a bleak chapter in my life. And it was later expunged and all of that because what happened in my life, my father and my mother's value were integrity is everything. And so it was fascinating to observe that the way I cried out for help was taking a friend's credit card. And I used to have a lot of shame around that until I realized pain to purpose, until I realized that when I started speaking at women's prisons, it was a great wake up call in a lot of ways because I lived such a privileged life. So then I started speaking on really big stages. I mean, I'm talking 10,000 people. And I started telling the story much more briefly than we did just now. But it was like, hey, how many of you have done something you're so ashamed of that if we put it up on these 40 by 40 screens, you dive under your chair? And Sylvia, everyone's hand goes up. And after those talks, I would have like 20 people deep that wanted to tell me their story. I used to be a doctor, but I lost my license because I was writing prescriptions. I heard unbelievable stories, but it's because shame and guilt are the darkest emotions that we can feel. And when we believe the lies that there's no forgiveness or path of restoration back, we can't change the past, but we can become better because of it. And so, Sylvia, actually, because of that event, I made a commitment. I knew not only did I need to be above and beyond reproach, it didn't matter what anyone ever said. Every T would be crossed, I would be dotted, from the IRS to me giving my word on something. And I learned to be overly generous, that was a value that I carried forward instead of ever thinking about taking over delivering. And that was a great thing to learn.
That's an awesome lesson, I'll tell you, because in all the dark chapters, I could hear the lesson that you learned during that period of time. And one of the things that I'm always reminding my kids about is responsibility. The responsibility and the definition of it is your ability to respond to a circumstance you find yourself in, or even to another person. And what I loved about your story, Wendy, is that when you had that conversation with your dad and he tells you that your kid's whole world is their father, and that you put your children's needs above any fight, above anything that was happening, all the drama that was occurring, that you put your kids up front and center. And I think that that's something that women don't do often, to give themselves credit where credit is deserved, because the shame and the guilt is so great. It will overpower your good deeds. And so I want to bring forth that example and bring it to light, because there's women listening to this podcast and will likely listen to this episode and say, that was me. And there's a way out of there. There's a way and out of that fear and out of that shame and guilt, which, by the way, are two of the most useless feelings out there, because they serve no purpose but to teach us the lesson to forgive ourselves and forgive others, because it is a gift we give ourselves and it's a gift we give others to do that. So I applaud you for moving forward in your life, but I know your story doesn't end there. I've heard
Sylvia, I feel called, if I could.
Sure.
Because again, it's not just that easy of bouncing back and put it behind you. I'm not a social worker and I'm not going to go into tons of details, but for anyone, if you're one of those people that you have something that maybe nobody knows about, that if they knew, oh my gosh, if you have something like that, for me, it took one other sort of triggering event that was actually a near car accident. and a near head-on collision, by the way. I ended up in a cornfield, and I called my father because my reaction to it was way more than what happened. And so I called my dad. I took an equity loan out of the house. It was the first time the kids were going to spend 2 weeks with their dad and then 2 weeks at Kanakuk Camp, which is an amazing camp for kids in Missouri. And so there were 4 weeks for the first time in my life, that the children wouldn't be with me. So I went to a place called Psychological Counseling Services. It was outpatient, but it's where you delve into your trauma egg of growing up. It doesn't take a lot of experience in life to realize our parents aren't perfect. We have horrible experiences, and some of us have way more difficult experiences than others. And I'm only sharing this because it is a sign of strength to say, I need help, and to find an expert that can help you find out where is that wound, why did I choose to stab back? I mean, I really thought I was super sick until I realized, wow, there are 12-step programs for people that haven't done it with drugs or alcohol. There are other ways of acting out. When I met a woman that had been married to a billionaire in Texas, and she'd been arrested multiple times for switching the prices on meat in supermarkets. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And I had something that didn't make sense because it wasn't about stealing. Mm-hmm. And so whatever it is you've struggled with, whatever thing you think is weird that makes you, not want to be on this earth, I promise you, it's an opportunity to discover your real purpose. So it's a strength to say, I need help.
It definitely is. And I think that's where most women get stuck, is that we are driven by perfection. And when we're driven by perfection, asking for help signifies we are weak. And for whatever reason, we get caught up in that a great deal. But like you, I've asked for help multiple times. And to me, it's a sign of strength to ask for help, because other people have been there before you and know what is coming next, and could perhaps not only sit with you to hear you out, but also, if you're open to listen, to guide you into your next steps. You feel less alone, right, and more empowered to step into change, which is like coming roaring down the road at you. And at times it will stop people there for years. They'll stay stuck in their circumstances. But I know your perseverance because of the modeling you received from your father. And that's who you kept calling. You notice your father has a way of persevering that you admire very much. And
right.
And I know that he was one of the people that has also been instrumental, probably one of God's messengers, if you will, that has helped you out of those dark chapters and into and stretching that comfort zone you found yourself in when you were going through your divorce, and into your capacity zone where you actually made sure that your kids still saw their dad.
Yes. And so Sylvia's stabilizing coming out of that event. I did commit 4 weeks of my life to figure out what the heck got me to a place where I did what I did. And I owned it, critical, made restitution, made real apologies, and then found ways to start to give back. And that is one of the ways out of a dark hole. It's not immediate, but then the next chapter is learning to forgive yourself. And so then being a part of some great support groups to move in a positive direction. And then here I am. I'm choosing to stay in Nashville. It's the right thing to do, but it's clear I'm not going to be able to hold a position in Nashville of any substance. I answer an ad, and it was a Google AdWords workshop. So I was one of the first 100 Google AdWords certified specialists in October of 2000. And at that point in my life, Sylvia, I didn't even think I was smart. Remember, no degree, couldn't pass a math class. So to walk on to a brand new arena where literally it was the first day you could put an ad online. That's when it was. Again, I keep dating myself, but that's where we are. And it gave me the opportunity. I bought back 8 years of my life to be home full time with my kids, which is what I wanted, because my mom was an amazing mom. And I was aspiring to be half of the mom that she was. So the great gift that all of that gave me was necessity is the mother of invention. And that's why I answered an ad. And that's how I landed in a Google AdWords workshop. And then it was just a walk-on opportunity again. And I found the best people I could, volunteered to help them in any way that I could to be valuable. That landed me with Dan Kennedy to learn copy. That landed me with Perry Marshall, one of the original Google AdWords aces. And that ultimately landed me to be Jay Conrad Levinson, the father of guerrilla marketing, led me to be his business partner and actually co-author one of his books together. So that's how it happened.
I love how you're implementing lessons learned from years before, where you're becoming of value to people and you're giving first. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people forget, if they don't sit back and reflect on their lessons learned, they can pass right by them. And I always, when coaching others, is daily implement the law of reflection, because on a daily basis, we're learning so much. And you and I, our minds are very similar in that we both have ADHD. And so it's like, go, 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 go. And so many thoughts come through our mind that if we don't sit down and slow it down and apply, we don't grow at a faster rate than how we're going through life. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but so the application of what you're learning is really where the degree of difference lies. Because a lot of people could be very knowledgeable on subjects, but they won't apply what they learn and therefore stay stuck in their circumstances. And I love that you kept moving forward despite the fear of the unknown, which is a huge fear for a great deal of people. And you kept applying what you were learning. So bravo to you. And my gosh, you have shared enormous tips along the way of your story of transformation. At this point in your life, what is your why? And tell me how you discovered it.
That's a great one. So, I won the athletic lottery earlier in my life and had an amazing experience, collegiate experience, U.S. team, then coaching at Vanderbilt. We went top 20 in 2 years. Really hired John Lombardi, Vince Lombardi's grandson. I learned how to, put together amazing teams because it had been demonstrated to me. And, I share that one because the true discovery at the end of the rainbow was when I found myself face down with an oxygen mask. I have my first of not one, but two zipper club open heart surgeries because I was born with a bicuspid valve defect that I didn't know of. So that means I didn't know about it. So I didn't worry about it. I didn't have any symptoms because my two valves closed just fine. But if two valves are working the way three are supposed to, they were out sooner. So I had my first open heart. The first one, sadly, they perforated my aorta. It was a problem. And so I went through a couple of years of struggle where I really am probably not getting enough oxygen because I was regurgitating and backflowing enough. And they didn't pick it up in the first couple of echocardiograms, which is crazy. So I had a second open heart surgery in March of 2017. And so now I got a pacemaker, I got a mechanical valve. I'm a little Wonder Woman, a little bionic woman. But I remember coming out from the second surgery and going, wow, I've launched two beautiful humans into the world. Completely my cup is full, but I'm still here. So why am I still here? And I remember talking to my very dearest friend in the world, Deborah Torres Patel. And I was like, Deborah, I've been, made millions of dollars for nameless, faceless companies. My life is full of sound and fury signifying nothing. I want to do something with a lasting purpose, but, I just have this grubby gift in marketing and I wanted something super spiritual. And she's like, Wendy, you've been helping people feed their families for, 20 years. Like, what are you talking about? And it was really interesting in that moment, Sylvia, when I bumped into someone that broke up a human trafficking ring. I recognized, wait a second, the book I've always wanted to write is to teach, train, and coach, mentor young women to be able to create their own little guerrilla marketing economy, to stay out of the sex trade and bad relationships, because I was lucky enough to be born with a lot of privilege. And for me, It was just about staying above water and taking care of my kids and being able to be home full time. But there are plenty of other women that weren't born as lucky as you and I have been. However, there's a skill set you can walk on and learn, literally if you just have a connection. So I've dedicated the rest of my professional career to teaching, training, coaching, mentoring young women so they can plug in and play, get mentored by an amazing woman, get a laptop from some incredible companies, and then I'll be doing training for free because that's going to be my legacy and my give back. So that's how I found my purpose, was that whole path I just laid out. And it wasn't lost on me, Sylvia, that God and the universe, that I had to have my heart cut open not once, but twice.
It's funny how, like, the first time I met you, there was so much alignment in our stories. It was so eerie to hear it. Like, your dad's a doctor, my dad's a doctor. We both studied abroad. We both played college tennis. We both had first acts that really were driven by our fear-based beliefs, our very first act. And then something devastating happens to us and we pivot and we ask the right questions of, why me? Why did I survive when others die? Right? Mm-hmm. I had pulmonary embolisms. I faced 20% chance of dying. You had 2 open heart surgeries and devastating things in between. We both were divorced. We both had young kids to raise. We both had that next job we were looking for. I mean, there was just so many things. And I always think when we encounter these people, it's almost like God's gift to us, because you have the success codes within you to help me get to my next level through your spiritual gifts. And that's why he puts us together, right? And I needed a marketing person to help me because that's not my strength. My strengths are others. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I was in sales, but marketing was not my gig, it was sales. So I just think it's so amazing. And I thank God every day for answering of hundreds, and I mean hundreds of people that reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yours was the email I clicked. And I don't see that as a coincidence. Do you?
No, it's absolutely not. But, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. But if we get some clarity, right, on who we are, how we want to provide some value in the world, and we just keep moving forward, then providence comes in. And we didn't meet by accident. No way. But you know what? Our stories, there are so many amazing single moms out there in the world, period. And the truth is, I was driven by my value of wanting to be able to be home full time. So because that's a commonality, I got to just share that, Sylvia. I remember I was away from my kids for the first time that summer that I'm a new single mom. And I had one of my best friend's college age girls was home with the kids until I came home from work. And when I came home that day, my daughter Haley was more connected to that college age girl than she was to me. And I mean, like Scarlett O'Hara, I reached down and grabbed the dirt. As God is my witness, this is never happening again. And then it was like a week later, the VP at this company, I was doing some training for this company. I need to leave early to pick Haley up from school. She wasn't well. He was like, if you need to do that again, you might want to find somewhere else to work.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't need anything else, and I was gone. That meant I answered NAD. That took the next step. So, the 8 years that I was home full time with Bo and Haley was because it was more important to me to be home with my kids than anything else. Because people have said to me, wait a minute, top 20 in 2 years, Lombardi, why didn't you stay at Vanderbilt forever? Because I decided as my kids were getting a little bit older, I am not going to go from Mother's Day out and go give my best to someone else's kid at 3 p.m. in the afternoon when mine are just going to be coming home from school. So it was my value that meant I left Vanderbilt. I loved it. I loved it. But it wasn't my true calling. And I knew that because even though there was I was conflicted in my heart at the time, I came back to that value. And yes, I called my dad, by the way, bawling, crying.
Of course
And
you did.
I'm trying to get him to give me the answer. And of course, he's, Wendy, you are the only one that knows the right thing to do. He said, close your eyes, click your heels together, and you'll know. And I love you, and I'm proud of you, and whatever you choose. And I got clear in my instinct, in my spirit, it wouldn't feel right if I didn't make that choice. Even though the fear of unknown, what am I going to do? How? No degree. Now I'd made a stupid mistake. You know, I couldn't become even a real estate agent or sell securities. So, I mean, I had created a real doozy.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you hit rock bottom. There's no question.
Absolutely.
What we always talk about rock bottom is there's no other way to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, once again, it's the degree of difference of people that stay down there longer and those that like pick up the pieces and say, okay, let me get quiet. Let me stop looking on the outside of myself. Mm-hmm. I've made a doozy of, I mean, all of that has come to convolute the mm-hmm. inside of mm-hmm. what I need to do. And when you turn inward for those answers, be it that you ask God and then you wait for his timing, or you ask the universe, or whomever it is that you listen to, the answer will come. Every time. When it does, then the important thing is to act on whatever comes to you that feels, and you'll know it because as soon as you step in there, and I don't know if you've ever felt this, peace washes over you almost immediately. You know you have made the decision that your soul is guiding you towards versus what your programming will do to you, right? That's where doubt. And when you start doubting yourself, that's your own programming. But when there's joy and when there is peace and that stillness, and you know you're doing the right decision for yourself, you're on the right path.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to you on such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing today. Any last minute tips you want to share with our audience?
No, you know what I would, if anyone knows a young woman that would benefit from the type of training to guerrilla marketing, walk on, to be able to stay out of yucky relationships and create their own economy, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn and we'll match someone up with a mentor and be able to plug them in so they can master their own destiny.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose. Thank you, Wendy, for your amazing story of transformation and pain to purpose. I know our listeners are going to gain so many pearls from this interview. So I thank you so much for making the time. I know you're a super busy woman. And stay tuned, guys, for the next episode of Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose.
So that's it for today's episode of Release Doubt, Reveal Purpose. Head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week who posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 private VIP day with Sylvia Worsham herself. Be sure to head on over to releasedoubtrevealpurposepodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Sylvia's gift and join us on the next episode.